Welcome back, Book Bros. It is wonderful to see you back again. Today we are going to be doing a couple of book reviews. And it's been a while since I've read these books. Okay, so if you're new here and you didn't see my last Malazan video, it's important to note that I'm not reviewing Malazan, I'm just documenting my experience with Malazan. I am going to come back to Malazan a few years after having this channel, and I'm going to do another reread and give more of a critical view on it once I get better at developing my own critical voice. So, this is kind of like dip my toes in the world of Malazan, and so far, I am loving it. So the two books we'll be talking about today are Deadhouse Gates and Memories of Ice, which are books 2 and 3 of the main series. So, without further ado, let's get to the book review, and we're going to start by talking about Deadhouse Gates. Going into Deadhouse Gates, I had a lot of high hopes, and that's because most of the community says that Deadhouse Gates is a real step up from Gardens of the Moon. Personally, I thought it was a half step down. Not a full step, but a half step. And I'll get into why, starting with the plot. Deadhouse Gates didn't do it for me because it was just slow, in my opinion. But that is all a matter of opinion. Some people really like the first book, some people really like the second book, and it's quite polarizing which book is going to be your favorite in this series, simply because they're all so vastly different from one another. Yes, there is a story being told, and yes, there is kind of a Malazan structure that I'll talk about later. But for the most part, each book feels relatively different so far. In terms of like larger world, I think this book pushes the larger world story a little bit further, but not as much as I would have liked. I would have liked more answers, and that's something that you'll hear me say a lot when I'm talking about Malazan. I would have liked more answers. And hey, who doesn't love some good old answers, right? Deadhouse Gates has a good plot, by far, but I found that walking through the desert just doesn't do it for me sometimes. And that first, half of the book is kind of that. It's characters finding out where they are, where they're supposed to go. There is a chapter, and you'll hear this whispered around the Malazan community. The Chain of Dogs, which is a chapter in this book, is where things pick up. And if you can make it there, I think the rest of the book goes by in a flash, because that's when the book kind of disappeared for me. But let's talk about characters. Because, oh boy, there's some characters I love in this book, and there are some characters I absolutely hate. Okay, so characters, I'm going to do this a little different. I'm going to talk more individually about characters than I did in the last Malazan video. So bear with me. This might be a long video. Hot take! Hot take. I hate Felicin. Felicin? I hate the girl. Oh, I could not stand her. Oh, I can't even pin it down. Everything that these other characters are trying to do, she's always the one character that's like, actually, I don't want to do that. No, I couldn't get behind anything she was saying, any action she made. I couldn't do it. The way she treated the people that saved her life. Okay, even if you put me in a prison and hop me up on drugs and made me feel comfortable under this one guy, if I was saved from the prison, I would still feel some sort of admiration for the people who saved me. Maybe this is just a testament to how well Erikson crafts human characters, is that because I'm in someone's head and I don't understand their actions, just like someone might make an action in the real life and I won't understand why they did it. Or maybe I'm just dumb. There's that too. However, like I said, the Chain of Dogs, Diker and Coltane and that whole, group of people walking across the desert. There is so much opportunity for good character moments, and Erikson delivers on those character moments. I didn't really like Diker to start, or, I kind of liked Coltane, but by the end of the book, they were the two characters I was like, wow, holy, they made this whole story. But the two characters I loved immediately and still love are Mappo and Akaria. There is so much despair, there's so much love, there's mystery, but the fact that Mappo can't tell Akarium the one thing that he wants to know, and the one thing that he has to watch his friend seek this truth that he's supposed to keep from him. It is so sad, but it is so beautiful at the same time. Of course, there are, the characters that carry over from the first book as well. Fiddler, Kalam, Apsalar, and Crocus. And I enjoyed that they get more characterization in this book. They feel real now. My one gripe with Gardens of the Moon was that characterization, it didn't feel top tier. And that's okay. Like, Erikson's good at characterization, and that becomes apparent in this book, as well as the ones that follow. Gardens of the Moon is just a bad example of how he does it. So, I was really interested to see how these characters I already knew would develop. And boy, did they develop. They feel different. When I read the first book, Fiddler was kind of just this background character. Whew! Wow. Fiddler is not a background character. Neither is Kalam. I'll wrap up my Deadhouse Gates thoughts by saying overall, Erikson delivers another strong punch here. But it just wasn't my cup of tea. His characterization gets a lot better in this one, and his pacing is a little more worked out, ironed out, I'd say. But it just felt slow for my taste. And that ending, while it was good, I can't ignore that the first half of this book is just a slog for me personally. Good book, not my cup of tea. And now we get to a great book that is definitely my cup of tea. Going into Memories of Ice, I was ecstatic. And you know why? That's because a lot of people say this is the moment Malazan becomes Malazan. Wow, they are completely and totally correct. Memories of Ice takes you back to Genebacus, which is where you started in Gardens of the Moon. You pick up with the same characters you read from in that book. Memories of Ice is full of vastly epic moments. But what I really appreciated was the human moments. It's done to perfection in Memories of Ice. It is Erikson slowing down and giving you moments like a campfire with the bridge burners, or a small conversation between two characters. These moments make the book. I know there's at least one person sitting there going, well, yeah, small moments are important, but this is an epic fantasy that I've heard is unlike any other. What about the epic, right? Let me assure you, Erikson does things that I never really thought I'd read in a book. No, I think the final climactic battle in Memories of Ice is probably one of the largest fantasy battles I've read to date. When it comes to characters, I think Deadhouse Gates sets a precedent. We are almost reintroduced to characters like Quick Ben, Whiskey Jack, Piran, and then we are also given this new wave of bridge burners that we haven't met before, and somehow they feel just as friendly and realistic as all of the other bridge burners, which I was blown away by. Piran is someone that I kind of liked in the first book, but he was an empty shell, personally, for me. This book, he gets a role, and I loved his role in the story. There's one moment where there's kind of this culmination, and it's all around Piran, and this thing that's happening to him, and the tension and the meeting of character, it was beautiful. Whiskey Jack is always a pleasure. Cheers to Whiskey Jack. Erikson plays with this idea that Whiskey Jack is kind of this natural-born leader. He is supposed to be in charge, and it's not like this prophecy or anything, it's just how people feel. And it's really interesting to watch people with more influence and with more power tell Whiskey Jack, you are supposed to be leading, and Whiskey Jack goes, nah man, I don't want that. I want out. I will wrap up this video by talking a little bit about the world and seeing, you know, these two books, how they flesh out the main story. Every place in Malazan feels unique. If only how the societies work in those areas, or, you know, the cultures, or it feels fresh. Every time they're moving from location to location, there's something fresh. Yes, Capustan has kind of the same setup that Darujistan did, but it's different in a way. I love when Erikson takes us to a new place, or he introduces or talks about a area that we haven't been to. It's so interesting, and those are the moments that I'm coming to love, because, you know, I want to see more. I want to see more and more and more of this world. The more I read, the more I want to expand, and I want to see what that continent's like, and I want to see what that continent's like. What are the people like there? And that is really cool that Erikson is able to build something like that, that makes me want to just lose myself in it. Let me tell you, if you've read things like Mistborn or Stormlight Archive, or, you know, you've read epic fantasy before and you like it, do not be afraid of Malazan like I was. Please, do not make my mistake. I waited so long. I bought Gardens of the Moon in like 2017, 2018, and I didn't read it until this year. I had that experience waiting for me on my shelf, and I never picked it up. I never went on this journey until now, and I waited so long, and I can't believe I did it, because now when I think about reading, I think about Malazan, because it's taken over my life. Malazan continues to be one of the best reading experiences I've ever had, and I cannot recommend it to everyone, but I also can't recommend it enough. And an update on my Malazan videos, I'm going to be doing them individually now, simply because as I continue Malazan, I realize there's a lot more I'd like to speak about individually about the books. Maybe even do a spoiler section where I talk about my thoughts about certain sections of the book. Let me know in the comments down below if you enjoy these longer videos where I talk about 2 Malazan books at a time, or if you'd prefer them to be individual. I appreciate your feedback, and, you know, you guys watch my content, so I might better make something that you want to watch. And while you're down there writing your comment, you might better subscribe if you like what I do here. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk about Malazan today, and I can't wait to do more of it. So I hope I'll see you around. But other than that, thank you for watching today's video, and I'll see you around.